Tell you what, Chris, with that thing with, like, Bounceville wants to redo that parking,
Yeah.
they're gonna come up.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna fix it.
Yeah, I think we
Thanks,
gotta
Commissioner. Thank you.
take care.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Morning, Sarah. We're just finishing the one meeting. I told you 15, 20 minutes longer. Well, I lied.
I was watching it a little bit on the Facebook.
Okay, so you know what we were talking about.
Yeah.
All right, so if everyone's ready, I'll call the monthly meeting of the Carter County Firemen, or, I've got so many meetings I don't know. Carter County Retirement Board meeting to order.
I thought it
Turn
was
it
at the
over to our
prison board
secretary.
meeting.
Let's do a check.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I need a vacation.
First, looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting held April 16, 2020.
So,
Second.
Hey, Mr. Sheehan?
Yep.
Mr. Spurcheck, yes. Mr. Arner?
yeah,
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
All right. I know we have Sarah as our guest. We're going to bring her on a little bit later. Report of executive session. We did have a conference call with Sarah Wilson of Marquette on May 6th to conduct a portfolio review and also discuss the asset rebalancing strategy under the OCIO plan. But no motion is needed on that. Next, I'd like to move to ratify the warrant, the monthly warrant, and that is checks numbers 40542 to 40563 and direct deposits 7007339 to 7007710 for the month of April.
So moved. Second.
All right, so Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Spurcheck, yes. Mr. Arner?
yeah.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
And then next is the reviewing of the retirement activity for the month of April. We had two refunds, one superannuation and one retiree that had passed. And I just wanted to make a mention of the retiree that passed was our former longtime Sheriff Pete Horchak, who served the county for many years and was a ardent volunteer in his community as well. So I just wanted to also collectively express our sympathy to his family and thank them for his service and also his volunteer work. And the portfolio evaluation as of April 30th was $74,358,780. Okay. Next, moving on to correspondence. There's an application for disability retirement allowance for Edward B. Herring Jr. And I did review this with Solicitor Miscavige, and he does comply with the requirements of the plan to qualify for a disability retirement allowance, but I know I needed to bring it to the board to have it formally approved. Are there any questions on that?
Yeah, could you explain that for us a little bit, Dan?
Okay, you have okay, so under our plan that if an individual meets the itemized criteria in the plan, they will qualify for disability retirement. One is that they are in active service as of the date of their disability. You may have that list with you. I don't have it with me.
So there's a certain number of criteria they have.
Five
Yeah.
criteria. One is you're totally disabled as evidenced by a finding of disability by the Social Security
Okay.
Administration.
Yeah, which we have that,
Yeah.
yes.
One is, I think, you don't qualify for a superannuation pension, which we know he doesn't. So whatever, we know all the, so we know the 4 or 5 criteria under the plan that was required for disability retirement have all been met.
Right.
5
Okay.
Sergeant.
Thanks.
Yes. And his years of service and age did not allow him to qualify for a regular pension.
Regular
as well.
pension, okay, got it.
Yes, yes. So I look for a motion to approve that.
Yeah, move to approve.
I'll second.
And that's effective today, Mark.
I'm sorry, yes, effective today, May 21st.
Yes, move to approve with that amendment.
All right, Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Spurcheck, yes. Mr. Arner?
Yes,
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
And thank you. Solicitor's report?
Nothing additional.
Okay. Next would be investment manager. I know we have Sarah Wilson on the phone from Marquette.
Morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Now, how much time do we have?
about a minute and a half.
Okay.
No, till noon. So
we'll care a little more.
Yeah.
Okay, what we'll do is, can you hear me,
Yes.
everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So what we'll do is we'll go a little bit over the market. You've got your books in front of you, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
no, of course not.
Okay, well, let's just do what happened in last quarter. We all know that everybody was down, but let's just talk a little bit about that. We'll review what happened in the first quarter, and then I'll review the updated performance, and then if there are any questions, and we have talked about the transition, we did have another step in that. So if you open the book, just really quickly, let's go to Exhibit 1, and you can just see a Marquette update. And I just want to tell you that even though, you know, we basically have been in this quarantine environment, we have hired about 12 new employees through end of April, and they're working remotely. The Chicago office is set to open first week of June, and Westchester office is closed along with the Baltimore office, so we don't know when. And just to point out, we did get designated 2019 Greenwich Quality Leader in overall U.S. investment consulting. So let's go look at the market, which is in Exhibit 2, page 1. And what we've done is we look at the U.S. economy, and we know it basically became to a halt with the global pandemic, with real GDP declined by 4.8% in the first quarter. We're expecting about a 25% contraction in the second quarter before a rebound in the second half of the year. That being said, that is going to really depend on how states get back to work and we see the overall economy. So that could actually go down once again. I thought, interestingly enough, if you look below, look at the quarterly economic projections. That's that bar graph. And you can see, look where JP Morgan first quarter said, okay, we think we're going to go down 10%. Second quarter, 25%. But third and fourth quarter, they think it's going to be positive. Barclays is one who just basically says it's going to be 0. And then we look at down below in the black, minimum, maximum. For the fourth quarter, it's either minimum 0 projection or 22%. So we're still hoping that there is going to be some economic gain this year. If you go to page 2, where you can see that bar chart, and you can also see the round graph, U.S. economy consumption and unemployment has deteriorated at historic pace. Service industry is typically less cyclical than manufacturing sector, has been a large slowdown. And then we know the recent drop in oil prices will likely prove to be another headwind to economic growth. Interestingly enough, oil is starting to come back. And in the state of Pennsylvania, we really haven't seen that much change in oil prices. When we look at the impact on workers, and as the county, throughout the counties in the state of Pennsylvania had a large impact of this virus. But we look at the income or hours reduced at 31%. Only 35% had no impact to employment, and about 10% permanently closed their businesses or temporarily. Now, go to that bar chart below and look at where that service industry impact. Sometimes when we think service industry, we just think, okay, it's restaurants. But really, go look at air travel, recreational. We look at clothing, down 40%. We look at durable goods, hotels down 72%. So we are really starting to see that this is going to have an impact going down the road. If you turn the page, I just want to talk a little bit about the Federal Reserve. So this is page 3. The actions, both fiscal and monetary, implemented by policymakers in an attempt to offset the economic downturn have been stunning in scope and scale. They went and did an emergency rate cut, which I have not seen in years happen in my career. And then we look about what they're trying to do on stimulating the economy. And while they got those stimulus checks out, we look at what they've done for the unemployment. We looked at how they're trying to replace lost income for both consumers and employers. Eventually, though, we're going to have to look at how we're going to pay that back, because that's trillions in there. So, and you can see the federal balance sheet. Look at that spike below. And then we look at the loan loss provision among major banks. The blue on that bar chart is where we were in first quarter 2019. Now we go look at where we are in first quarter 2020. JP Morgan last year was at 1.5 billion, and now they're at 8.3 billion. If you look at page 4, we look at growth outside the U.S. It's basically the same story here. We know that the EMF, the global economy, is projected to contract sharply by 3% for the year, and has even deeper contraction than witnessed during the global financial crisis. It's important to note that IMF forecast assumes the pandemic fades in the second half of the year. So depending on what happens with the pandemic and how it comes back, all these numbers can change. And we look at where we see economic growth estimates. Interestingly enough, China and India are actually have some good growth estimates. Now, take this with a grain of salt, China, if we believe it or not. But we do look at India, and I thought that was interesting, and Russia. And, with global, you'll see that you've got that because of the diversification in the portfolio, you'll see some growth with the managers in there. Let's turn the page. And there is a little better news in April. It's just, I think it's very important to understand exactly what happened when you look at your returns. We know global equities declined sharply. We look at that graph, we can see U.S. equities were down 21%, emerging markets down 23%. U.S. bonds were up, and actually over the year, the course of the 12 months, March to March, U.S. bonds were at 8.9, tips were at 6.9, but then we look at the commodities, and commodities were really affected with what we saw happening in the oil in the past quarter. We look at U.S. equity markets, look at page 6. Interestingly enough, growth stocks also outperformed value stocks in the first quarter. We've always kind of taken a value tilt. We've been going back and forth. Michael Schoen and I were on the phone today about growth versus value. And we're probably going to see us taking more of being a neutral approach to growth versus value. Value is supposed to outperform in a down market. We did not see that. And it could be because we had a fairly strong beginning of the quarter. And then at the end of the quarter, we know that institutional managers try and get any kind of bounce in performance and could have been buying deeply stocks that they wanted to be able to see some growth in there. If you look below the quarter, you can see consumer discretionary was down 21%. As I said, energy down 55%, financials down 33%, and healthcare was only down about 13%. Look at information technology. Information technology was up 7.2 for the trailing 12 months. Are there any questions? All right, let's just turn to page 7. We'll look at the fixed income, and then we'll talk a little bit about how to use it. Okay, so fixed income, you had a flight to safety, saw rates fall historically low for intermediate and long-term treasuries. That, coupled with the Federal Reserve cutting short-term rates back to zero, led to an upward sloping yield curve. Future markets are now projecting the Fed will keep rates at zero until at least 2021. We are really not wanting to see rates go negative. I mean, if they can just keep it at zero, that would be better for the market. We also know that because of what happened in this market, there were a lot of active managers that just could not outperform the benchmark. It was a really tough quarter for fixed income. All right, I'm going to move to Exhibit 3, if we turn the tab and just look at the portfolio overview, unless there are any questions for now. All good?
All
Yep.
good.
Okay, so let's look at where you were on March 31st. You were at 69.6 million. You had a loss of about 13.8%, and that was a loss of 11.3. Now let's take a step back and look underneath that. For the year 2019, though, you had a return of 19.9% and had a net investment gain of 14.2. So you did not give back all of your 2019 performance. And I think that's really important to go noting forward. We knew that we were going to eventually have a correction. When I was out there last time, we talked about it. When are we going to see the market correct? We knew that it was going to be in the next 18 to 24 months. I have a lot of clients asking, is this a market correction right now? And we don't see this as the market correction being done. We are hoping that the market, which it did in April, rather fine, and going into May, found its feet, meaning that some of the volatility was out and that we didn't have such big swings. For the trailing 3 years, you had an annualized return of 3.9 with a net investment gain of 7.4. Since inception, your return was 7.1 per year, annualized with a gain of 24.4 million. So you're still in fairly good shape. It's just what we're going to do, going forward. And you can see, the equity composite was down 21%. Fixed income did 1.1 for the quarter. For the trailing 1 year return 6.3, and your JP Morgan real estate return 0.6 for the quarter, and trailing 1 year return 5.5. We're going to talk down the road a little bit about JP Morgan and real estate. I know you made those commitments to real estate. We're also going to look, down the road when I can come out looking ahead. We're going to talk about asset allocation. We're going to look at some different asset classes, possibly infrastructure, and funding that and how we would go about that. And then we need to do a review of the investment policy statement and have an education meeting. So that's really, when you're freed up, when I can come out and do that, we will talk about that going forward this summer. Are there any questions?
None.
Okay. All right. Since we transitioned into the OCIO, do you want me to go into this more in depth, or do you want me to go and just give you an update on April and the OCIO transition?
The update?
Just the update, she went over the individual
Before.
pages of the transition, so
I think-
I don't think you need to rehash that.
No, just the update, please.
Okay, so when we look at the update, through April, you're actually up quarter to date, 7.7%. So you've actually had some good performance there. We know that these managers have changed a little bit, but I want to take you to C.S. McKee bounced back. We did take them down a little bit with the transition, but they did quarter to date 2.7. They're still trailing year to date, but they did come back in April. So right now, and then this was as close of last Friday. The market just keeps changing, but you're approximately around 73.5 million.
Better than 69.
Yeah, I know,
It's
that's what
better
you,
than,
I was looking at that, I thought we were better than the 69. I was looking like, where did that come
but
from?
I just want to real quick go through. On May 11th, we were able to basically get you right in target with your transition. We liquidated the mid cap, and then we put it slowly into the Vanguard dividend, Vanguard small cap. GWK, your small mid cap manager, has now been funded through May 11th. and we purchased 370,000 of the U.S. Bond index, and then we added 50 points to your aggregate index fund, which is your bond index. So right now your targets are pretty good. You're at about 17 basis points over U.S. equity. You know, you always try to get it down to that exact target. It's hard. And so you've been, you know, when you're in good shape. Cash, you're right a little bit above cash. We know that we've got 900,000 coming out in this month and next month. So we've got that already sitting there. We decided to put that in instead of having to trade that out. You know, trade and then sell something that we had just bought. So we kept enough. So we are not going to have to look at cash until the end of June. Are there any questions?
Sarah, just one question on the different parts of the review when you break out U.S. equity, global equity, non-U.S., real estate, fixed income, and cash. So I think I'm reading this right. So the global equity could have U.S. equity in it, but the non-U.S. is totally non-U.S. holdings.
Right.
Okay.
Global equity managers are allowed to go back and forth. They actually have got the capability to hold as much cash as they want. They also have the capability to hold as much domestic as they want. And that is actually why we usually see global managers are a little bit more expensive due to the fact that they are really actively trading, moving in and out of the market.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
No. I'm watching everybody shake their head.
Okay, and I just wanted to point out that, you know, Ron and I also sent you the manager sheet so you could see the updated manager sheets that went in an email.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you do look at the Vanguard dividend growth, and let's say you look at the American Funds Washington Mutual, you're going to see sometimes you'll see a lot of the same holdings. We don't really look at that in those particular two funds because one is an index, one is an active manager. What we do is look at the market capitalization and we look at the effective style. And I just real quick, the Vanguard dividend growth is actually overweighted in large cap about 14% and underweighted in mid cap, where American Funds is overweighted in mid cap and not as overweighted in large cap. So sometimes you'll see those top 10 holdings, especially when two vest in large cap equities will sometimes be the same. That's really not more of a concern. We look more about the characteristics of the fund, and we also look at the market cap and the sector allocation. If that was completely the same, then we would have a concern. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. I asked Sarah my questions via email because I didn't know if my voice would carry this far across the room.
Okay, satisfied, Ron?
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
I have one more question.
One more question from Mark.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sarah, I know you explained before about your firm's plan for the reallocation and rebalancing of our portfolio. And I know you did it over 6 trading days and a little under 2 weeks. Is that typically what you've been doing when you're doing this type of activity for a county over that methodology that you've used there?
Well, it is, but what we did was we did it much slower because of the market.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times we would have been able to sell and buy and just go and do straight sell, straight buy, and we would have actually gotten a transition manager in to make sure there was no out of market.
Yes.
But what we did is we did this much slower, and then we went and we looked at the portfolios, the investment committee and myself, and we looked at them and we said, look, we don't know what this market's going to do in the next 6 months, nor do we know what it's going to do in the next month to 3 months. The more we put it into the portfolio, we see that's going to go forward and be able to protect them in the downturn and do that. So we made the decision to go through there and actually do it in the course of 11 to, we started in April, we finished by mid-May on that.
Yeah.
The next thing that's going to happen is that we stayed within your investment policy statement. So normally we would have said, okay, let's get a new investment policy, let's get a new asset allocation. But due to a lot of the constraints we've had, because of this pandemic and half of everything being closed and everything, that's going to be the second step, and then we'll be able to adjust the portfolio a little bit more when we've got some education and the board's comfortable possibly making some asset allocation changes.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I thought the time period used was still, fairly quick, which I thought was good, not knowing what the market's going to do.
And the other thing is that we did run into this, and it's something we'll discuss down the road, is that your current custodian will not let us buy and sell on the same day. So we have to be really cautious as not to keep you out of the market, if you know what I mean. So with that as well, that was it took a little bit longer. But we were comfortable with this. I know we didn't want to go in and just wipe everything out, but we also thought that some of the moves we made will have benefited the portfolio.
Sarah, are you going to address our custodian issues at a future meeting?
I would like to. You've got a couple of options with that. As you know, the custodian is your choice, so we would work with any. But the one thing that you do have with this OCIO is that we can go out for you with, obviously no charge at all. We can go get you 3 bids of what we know that you need, plus what we need for trading and online access, and then go back and say, we have so many accounts, what is the pricing? And then we would come back to you with 3 choices to look at, and then you can make that decision if you want to stay. I think one is we should look at the fee. I think 2, we should look at how comfortable you are with the web access. And 3, I think it really has something to say when we look at trading. That's on our end, but if you're very comfortable with them, we will still make it work. But yes, we would like to look at that down the road for you.
Sarah, good morning. This is Chris. And again, if my dates are a little off, my apologies. It might have been September or October of 2018. There was a discussion. You were here, as were others, and it may have been the actuaries who were here. And an issue was kicked. A little can was kicked down the road in regards to our retirement. And I'm wondering if we couldn't set up an opportunity, maybe when you all are next here, that we can discuss that in more depth and maybe provide Rocky and I a little bit more background in reference to options and what was being suggested during that conversation in regards to our retirement program.
Okay, well, and was that...
Could you clarify that a little bit, Chris? So Ron and I are a little confused.
Yeah, I believe there's
was
it not looking at the retirement program. There was a discussion that took place here during a meeting in regards to the retirement program. I can go back. What I'll do, I'll go back and check the video on it and provide the details. There was a discussion.
Are we talking about the actuarial report and looking? I think we talked about the rate of return on the retirement plan.
Yeah, that may have been it. Yeah. No, it was a while back.
Rate of return.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what we should do is when I'm, as soon as you're open to having me come out and we can do that, I think we should go get the updated, we should go look at the actuarial report. I think we need to look at the rate of return, but I also think that right now, and I'm seeing this with a lot of my county clients, is that, you've got tremendous economic, you don't know where you're going to be economically in the next 12 months. I mean, you've got a lot on a county. Where you're funded, I think the one thing that we would like to do is see, and normally I wouldn't say this in a normal market environment, But, you know, if you lower that rate of return right now, you're gonna have to put in a substantial amount more. And I think that, let's discuss it, but I think the best thing is that you're in pretty good shape now. Let's get the new actuarial report, talk about that, as well. But I think when we looked at that in October, we did not have any idea of what was gonna happen in March of this year.
No, this was 2018. Again, I'll pull the video and I'll provide a transcript or notes from that meeting.
That
All right,
would be
so we're on
great,
the
and
same
I'll
sheet
go
of
back
music.
and look at my notes.
Okay,
as
all right,
well.
I'll find it. It'll take a little bit of time, but I'll find it. Thank you.
Okay, and then, yep, and just shoot me an email, and then we can add that on the list.
Yeah.
And also, do you, would somebody in the next couple weeks send me out when you are ready for me to come out, and let me know some dates that would work? Or do we want to try for the June retirement board meeting?
I don't know.
Or
We
do you
may
want
have
to do an
to, let us reevaluate that in a couple of weeks, see what the, is
Yeah.
going on with COVID and who we have here and what is going on with the economy, et cetera, how things are progressing. I think it might be a little bit premature right now, and we don't
Okay.
expect our actual aerial report until, when?
Usually arrives late July. We usually review it in August or September, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, I do want to get out before probably August if we can, or we can do an education thing like we did. You know, just education, make no changes, but we should probably look at some asset allocation to education. So you let me know when that's freed up for you, and then I will accommodate the schedule.
Yeah, well, maybe we can, look at possibly June, 4 weeks away or so, and go from there. I don't know, I just,
Aren't you
Or
gone? in
July,
That's
it's
what I'm
fine.
looking at.
That's why you want it.
yeah.
That's pretty slick.
I'll be gone, we can have a
He's gonna be gone the whole month of July.
Can I
Yes.
No, I'm looking at June, I will be available until noon on that day, so I'm good. You know, if you wanna come in, I mean, things change in the economy and, depending what's going on with COVID and everything, let's tentatively schedule it for June.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
And then what we can do, if that doesn't work, then maybe do an education window or teams, or what I'll do is I can come out for July. So it really is I understand everything's tentative. So, I mean, you know, they could put us back in the red zone before we know it. So just let me know what works for everybody, and I'll coordinate with Mark. Does that sound good?
Yes, I definitely won't be here in July. Subject to change, of course, with
Yeah,
what's going on.
right.
Okay, all right.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody. We'll keep giving you updates. If you have any questions on anything, let me know. And then we'll be able to really, probably next quarter through June, you're going to see a lot of the transition with the performance. But June, you know, the third quarter is really where we're going to see how the portfolio is doing. But I will keep you updated weekly with your asset allocation, and then we'll send out monthly performance updates as well.
Okay.
Further business I have.
Mark?
I have something under further business.
Yeah.
I thought we
No.
were adjourning the meeting.
I wasn't sure what you.
No.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, under further business, discussion and review of the buyback of time procedures for the fully furloughed employees who are and will be returning. And I worked with Solicitor Miscavige on this as well, and I came up with two motions to try to obviously comply with what the requirements are under our retirement plan, and to try to be as fair as we can with the returning employees to spread out the payback of the buyback if they choose to do that. So I have two motions in there. I was wondering if I could get a motion for the first one, or I could read it if someone wants to. Would you like to read
I'll
it?
make the motion. You want me to read it?
Yes,
or-
please.
Well, you should, why don't you read the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can read the motion.
All right, the
and
first
then-
motion for approval is to give returning employees who are fully furloughed a period of 30 days from the date of full-time return to elect the buyback of their time while furloughed or decline a buyback of their time.
And he's making a motion, so I'm seconding it, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Mr. Sheehan?
Yes,
Mr. Svercek, yes. Mr. Arner?
Yeah.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yep, yep.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes,
All right. And then the second motion was to basically give them options as to how they can pay back the monies that they would owe to buy back the time. So the motion is to grant the returning employees who are fully furloughed the following options to buy back their time. First option, pay the amount due in one lump sum payment. 2, pay the amount due by payroll deduction in equal amounts each pay for a period not to exceed 6 months from the date of the buyback election. Or 3, a combination of a lump sum payment and the remaining balance in equal amount each pay for a period not to exceed 6 months from the date of the buyback election.
I'll make that second.
question under that. Don't we already have a policy for military personnel and for people that have left employment and came back and had the option of buying back their time? Don't we have that in place already, basically? And the reason I ask, if we have that in place already, we should be consistent with what we're already doing.
Well, I think the policy states up to 3 years, and I think we were looking for a shorter period of time because the time that people are off is not a long period of time. And I was also trying to be cognizant of my staff time and payroll and data processing and setting this up to, without a lot of problems and trying to track this for years
Right.
to pay back.
A set short
this
time.
motion probably cleans it up a lot better because in the pension plan documents themselves, it only addresses separation from service and return. In
Yeah.
this case, we have a reduction of hours and not a complete separation. These people weren't totally let go
Right.
and are coming back.
Yeah.
So this probably cleans that up a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not, Wayne, it's not changing a policy already established in the plan, but because of the unique situation of it, I worked with Solicitor Miscavige and also the actuary on different scenarios and what we can and can't do, and basically, the actuary's direction to me was, well, according to what the plan states and what the board decides, we can kind of modify things for a specific situation like COVID-19
Yeah, we
with
need
employees.
something to adapt to what we have now.
So he said, he suggested to be, probably cross all Ts and dot all Is, is to present the board with some motions that we could adopt to accommodate this situation.
Yeah. So in 6 months, they've either done it or they haven't, and then we move on.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, and this would all be spelled out to the employees in a letter.
Right, and that's, Mark, and that's what, I don't know if you recall, right before the last furlough, the first extension went out. That's what I was trying to get Dawn to get from us at that time. But this could go in and be included in the next, or this extension letter we're getting ready to transmit, correct, Ellie? It hasn't gone out yet, an extension letter of the furlough?
Probably working on that now, but
Yeah.
I think she would feel more comfortable if to include a letter from the controller.
Right, yeah.
Instead of having Dawn
Yeah,
do the language of the letter.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, and,
Yeah.
and again, this is affecting only the fully furloughed employees, not the partial ones that are just,
Right.
that are still
Yeah.
working. So anybody getting income is still being deducted from.
Sure. yeah.
So these are the ones, even if they don't come back full-time initially, which I know many aren't, but at least that period when they were completely
Furloughed.
out from service,
Yeah.
that's the period of time we're talking about here.
And again, it was worked with the actuary as well, so everything is coordinated, and we felt that with the large number of employees affected, different people coming back at different times, and the uniqueness of this situation, that it warranted this particular proposal to be fair to the employee.
Just so we don't create a financial burden on those that may be off for several more months, let's say, not just a short term. We're not sure. I can't say we can tell
We could always
how
amend
long
it.
we're gonna have some people on.
Yeah,
We could always amend it in
We
the
could-
future.
yeah, we can adjust this in
Okay.
2 months from now.
Well, why don't we just say 180 days or 6 months from the last furloughed employee's return? Fully furloughed employee's return, instead of coming back and amending
Well,
it.
Well, the
Yeah.
problem is, if they're offering, a year, let's say.
Right.
A long term, are they gonna be able to financially do it in the year, in 6 months' time? The longer
Right.
they're off, the more financial burden it's
Burden
gonna
it's
be
gonna
for
be
them
on
to.
them.
And I'm okay if we
Yeah.
can, for the short term, if we can amend it, but.
Right.
If
It
it
looks like-
goes on pretty long, I'm concerned about that long-term financial
Yeah,
Right,
commitment.
well, then we
Might
can
be
come
more
back for
time.
maybe that, let's call it the second group of employees
Yeah.
that might be out twice
Longer.
as long.
Yeah, so the exception.
I mean, it's up to the board.
For now, this
Yeah,
gives us, for
There's
this
a
gives
bunch
us.
of unknowns here. We might end up having to re-implement something like this again
Mhm.
down the road, so.
Okay,
At least get this one done, and if we have to amend it down the road, we can.
Yeah,
So Mark, if we do pass this motion, will you be able to provide Dawn the documentation to include in accordance with her timeline, which I'm expecting is pretty short? So something can be sent out to
Well,
those who are
my
potentially.
plan
affected.
was to do I would say a generic letter to the affected employees,
Mhm.
so they know what their options are,
Mhm.
and to get them to decide. Now, the complicating factor is, the controller's office and data processing cannot yet figure out the number, even for the people that are coming back, because the actuary said that is determined once the funding level is decided for 2020. So that number for the county portion of the buyback, we can't calculate it yet, but rather than waiting until June, people are coming back, I wanted to try to have something in place,
Yeah.
so employees
Yeah.
would be able to decide. I mean, some might say, well, it's 6 weeks, I don't care, I'm not gonna buy it back, you know, but at least they'll have that option.
But again, you know, the people that are back already, they would be the ones that are making the election now.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So the people that are still furloughed don't have to make that election until they return.
Right.
Should it be with a recall letter?
Yeah. The thing was, all I know is I had 3 calls in regards to retirement.
Okay.
And I don't think those concerns have been addressed, but this
Okay.
addresses that.
Right.
Maybe the easiest thing to do is simply put this information in with the letter, the furlough letter. Because that way it shows what action the board took, they'll know what to expect when they come back.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about calculating numbers or anything
Right.
like this. That may answer the question, at least for the people that are still out.
Right.
That's fine. I know the next logical question is gonna be, how much is it for me?
Well, they're gonna say,
You
once
won't
you
know.
come back,
Right,
we'll calculate.
I won't,
Yeah.
I won't. We
Yeah.
won't.
yeah, we won't know anyway.
I mean, the time period could be changed here before we do the motion,
Right.
if you want to change the time
So,
period.
but I think it at least will take those questions that Commissioner Savage is referring
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
and answer those, okay?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that'll also
And again,
take the time pressure off of you to get it out. We could just
Okay.
give them this, because it's for the people that are still being on furlough,
Right,
okay?
right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Is that agreeable to the
Yeah,
board?
no, I would appreciate
yeah,
it.
yeah, I'll support that.
Is the motion okay the way it is then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You vote.
Yeah.
All right, then, I think, did I read I read it, right?
Yeah, and I
Rob,
second it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Sheehan?
Yes?
Mr. Spurcheck, yes. Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
All right, that was all I had.
Good.
Any further business for retirement board?
Nothing.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
What's up? You wanna go first there, any questions?
Nope, all good. Take care.
All right, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
He's tired.
This mask is killing me.
Mark, thanks for putting that together.
Oh,
That's
you're
good
welcome.
motion.
You're welcome. Just trying to keep things as succinct as possible.
Yep, no, that's good.
Because I think in the document it says 3 years. You can give people 3 years to pay back a couple $100.
You'll never be
Yeah,
clear.
well, yeah.
It'd be an accounting nightmare.
No.
Yeah, the hard part's gonna be him figuring out exactly what's owed,
Right.
depending on how many people actually respond.
Yeah, you know, a letter.
Could be
Okay,
good.
let's,
So I know, I mean, obviously the focuses for the holiday weekend are kind of downtown Jim Thorpe along the DNL Trail. Are there any other areas throughout the county that you guys are kind of more closely monitoring as far as where you think people are gonna go, or?
Well, I mean, we're looking at Kidder Township unquestionably, right? Because of Hickory Run State Park, again, we understand, there's certain restrictions, but Hickory Run Park, Kidder Township is gonna have a notable influx out there. Any of the resort areas are, of course, gonna have an influx there. But again, fortunately, with the CCEDC and PMVB and like the Pocono Promise, they're well synchronized and coordinated. And I would say, I know we attended the Pocono Promise signing in that virtually the other day. I think I'm fairly comfortable with the measures that at least those participants are taking, to mitigate any risk, even in the high tourism areas such as Kidder Township and the seasonal traffic that's coming in.
And then the only other thing, do you guys have, like, a copy of like the actual postcards that are gonna be
I'll have them at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
1
Okay.
o'clock.
Okay. I was gonna use one maybe in my live shot, but
Mhm.
we'll see. And then can I just have a copy of the correspondence, the Beltsville letter? That's the only one. I think that's all I have though.
Haley,
I'm wondering if you guys could kind of just tell me how you're feeling. I just kind of feel like a lot of residents might be scared of the thought of tourists, but also that's what our economy needs. So how are you feeling about those two important things?
I'm really concerned. I know how serious the economy is for our local, like our businesses. And if we don't get something moving soon, we're gonna lose a lot of businesses permanently. I know there's some businesses that possibly are not gonna be opening tomorrow or this weekend, concerned for their own safety and that, and their employees, of course, but it's the places like the barber shops and hair salons and everything else. I think there's a way they can do it safely. I think those people are really starting to suffer now. And if you see people walking the streets, might be getting a little shabby right now. I know, fortunately, I have somebody in the family that trimmed my hair last week, but there's a lot of families that don't have that. I'm really concerned about going yellow. I know how important it is. I just got a call this morning. My family, I may have said before, a lot of them are involved in the emergency services, and my stepdaughter is the EMT, and her husband is a flight medic, and was informed that his partner passed away within the last 24 hours of COVID-19, the guy he worked with all the time. So he was quarantined for the 2 weeks and everything, unable to fly in that. But it's concerning to me. Well, I haven't seen them in particular since early March, but my great-grandson, I should say, has been there because they have to babysit for the granddaughter, and we've been babysitting the child, so I get a little concerned being around even my great-grandson right now because of what's going on. And unfortunately, that person that passed away, that was a flight medic and that, just lost a brother 3 weeks before that to COVID, and also emergency responders. So I'm really concerned for the emergency responders out there that are known to come into contact with these COVID patients and everything, and the hospital personnel. I know it sounded very encouraging listening to the hospital here on the phone that they're pretty safe, but yeah, they follow the precautions and everything, but there's still that high risk for those people that are out there.
Haley, what I've been seeing, I think it's unfortunate, that we're seeing individuals who are psychologically jumping from red to green. I do believe that. And again, I'm not saying it's a majority by any means, but there is a minority who are making that psychological leap. And I'm going to tell you, it's happening in county government in some offices also. And I find that unfortunate, very concerning. When it comes to local residents, mostly those of us who are tied to the tourist communities, if you're a resident of Jim Thorpe during tourist season, what do you do on Saturdays and Sundays and holidays? You don't come downtown Jim Thorpe. So if you apply that same principle this weekend, you'll be safe, mostly if you feel you're vulnerable or part of that vulnerable population. And so that's my guidance and counsel. Avoid where people are going to mass. Avoid, MASS, not MASK, right? Avoid those areas where you feel uncomfortable, unsafe. Don't go into that business if you don't feel comfortable going in there because they're not adhering to guidance. But I think it's concerning. Again, it's just that people are just switching on too quickly instead of thinking about the gradual ramp up. Just like we kind of ramped down, actually. We didn't just throw people out. It was a slow, gradual decline over about 6 weeks when things started getting better. And that's the way we need to work back up. It's not the V, right? It needs to kind of be that gradual slope up.
And basically, the biggest difference going from red to yellow is that some more businesses and manufacturing can open up.
Yeah.
And the guidelines for went from 10 to 25 people in gatherings, but a lot of those other things have not changed. You still have to follow the CDC and Department of Health guidelines. So,
And I think sometimes, like what was thrown to us, you went from red to yellow, and we're sort of, there's guidelines, but we're trying to guide people, and I said, like Marlin and all that, we're looking for steps ahead. Like I've had barbers send emails on how they could do it. Hairdressers, how they could do it, restaurants. I said, like where my son lives at, they went to like, if your restaurant had 100 occupancy, they started out at 10%, then they went to 20% to 30%, and that's how I think we got to do it. It's like, and we need a little bit more guidance. And I said, some of these things that we're collecting from the businesses, and I think we got to put this together. The next time we send a letter to the governor, these are things that could be done. We're getting this from the barber. The barber knows how to clean. The restaurant person knows how the restaurant is set up. Maybe they can do something a little bit different. But for, like I said, personally, I had 2 people that I know. I said, a month ago my brother passed away from it. 2 weeks ago, my mother passed away, but her neighbor passed away 2 weeks ago. My son had 2 friends that they got it, and their father-in-laws and their father got it. Now they recovered. But these are all people that were from 31 years old up to 89. And then you see it on TV that there's a young girl 15. This killer does not, they picks whoever it wants, and people got to realize that we have to be careful. And the other day I was at a place, I did a curbside pickup, and somebody came out with a shopping cart without a mask on. We sit here, and and I said, I have guns. My freedom of speech, I always tell everybody what I think, so I see our amendments, what we are, but I don't think in any of the amendments it was in there that that you're going to take somebody's life away. You know what I mean? How do you say that? Is it in there that you can jeopardize somebody's life? I don't think it is. We sat here and the 3 of us did a little clip for Memorial Day, and these people fought for us. And I'm just wondering what they would have thought. Like my uncle from 1945, he would have thought when somebody walked down the street today and said, well, I don't have to do that, but they gave their life for it. So it's like, and I think we're just pleading to the people, please help us out so we can get to the next stage.
look at what the economy is doing with the casinos, I guess, are not allowed to open until it goes green.
Yeah.
Look at all that local share grant funding that
yeah,
municipalities look for.
Mhm.
How it's gonna affect the economy in the area. Look at the Pocono Raceway, having a race without fans in the stands, you know what that does to the hotels, the hotel taxes, and things of that nature. So, billions of dollars that are affected by what's happening today in income for all these owners and businesses and have things going on. County, huge financial impact, and it's going to take a long time to recover.
Was there anything provided from the state, like guidelines specifically for a touristy area or a county that's surrounded by red counties?
No, and I think, yeah, and I'll be honest, from what I saw of PMVB and CCEDC, they came together and developed the guidelines that at least the 4 counties in the
Yeah.
Poconos are working to adhere to.
Pocono Mountain Vacation Bureau did an excellent job.
Yeah, they sure did.
They did a great job of putting that stuff together for the businesses.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
that it? Okay.
All right. On to the next one.
We'll see you next month, Mr. Scott.
Oh.